I'm Ezra Levant. It's May 8th, and you're watching Battleground. Hey, welcome back. We're in our second week of our trial run of Battleground. You know what it is. From 12 noon Eastern Time to 1 p.m., we have a live chat. This is coming to you live from our world headquarters in an underground bunker in Toronto. What's fun about it is it's a loose kind of show. It's not like my produced show at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's live. We have some video clips and some other things, but the main aspect of it, what makes it fun and different, is the live super chat function. Super chat isn't just a word I made up. It's actually a Google name for what's flowing on the right side of the screen. Anyone can make a comment, and I'll do my best to read them, but over the course of the hour, we have hundreds of comments. To make yours stand out and give it a bright highlight, you click the super chat button, and for a couple bucks, your comment is in a bright highlighted color, and it stays on the screen for a period of time commensurate with the dough. Not only is it a fun way to talk to me, but it actually supports us here at The Rebel, because of course we receive no government funding. So without further ado, let me launch into today's subjects. We've got about 5 or 6 elements I want to share with you today. We talked the other day about who the real supermodel is. Michelle Obama or Melania Trump? Who do you think is the better supermodel? Well, it's obvious if you look at the definition of what a supermodel is. A supermodel is someone who graces the covers of the world's high fashion magazines, who is treated as a glamorous queen. That's Michelle Obama by any measure. Can you name me a single publication in the last year and a half since Trump has been won the election that has had Melania on the cover? Vogue, Cosmopolitan, Elle, Teen Vogue, Cosmopolitan, Chatelaine, whatever. Can you name for me a single women's magazine on whose cover Melania has appeared? I cannot. Not that I'm familiar with them all, but I think I would have detected it had it happened. Whereas Michelle Obama was on every cover countless times, very glamorous. Don't trust your lying eyes. Believe what the captions in the photo says. Absolutely gorgeous, unlike Melania Trump. My point is, the definition of a supermodel is, are you modeling on covers of magazines? And Melania Trump has been blackballed from them because she made the mistake of marrying a Republican. It wasn't a mistake for her when they were in private life. Every celebrity wanted to hang out with Donald and Melania Trump. They couldn't be more glamorous. They lived the glitzy lifestyle. They were rap heroes. I mean, how many rap songs mentioned Donald Trump and his billionaire lifestyle and his beautiful women? Hundreds, I would imagine. Until he made the audacious move of saying he wanted to be president and beating the precious one, Hillary Clinton, and then he became demonized, and she too, by virtue of the fact that she hung out with him. Melania Trump is very apolitical, of course, as the best first ladies are. But that hasn't stopped her from being the target of vitriol. Anyways, whereas first ladies past have focused on, say, literacy, Melania Trump rolled out a first ladies program called Be Best, and I just want to show you a little bit about it. I don't really have a strong opinion about it. I don't have a strong opinion about any nonpartisan do-goodery. It seems fine to me, but just take a look because we're going to talk about it for a minute.
I'm asking you all to join me today and commit to promoting values such as encouragement, kindness, compassion, and respect in our children. With those values as a solid foundation, our kids will be better equipped to deal with many of the evils in our world today. Together, I believe we should strive to provide kids with the tools they need to cultivate their social and emotional health. We can and should teach children the importance of social and self-awareness, positive relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Once a child understands these vital skills, they will be able to communicate openly with one another and instill positive feelings of mutual respect, compassion, and self-esteem. Let us teach our children the difference between right and wrong and encourage them to be best in their individual paths in life.
I think it's literally impossible to disagree with that. I mean, it is so high level. If that was a elected politician, I would say that's so cliche, that's meaningless. I don't have any flavor there. It's like salt that has no savor. But that's sort of the point for first ladies. You don't want them to be all up in your grill with politics. How can you be against compassion and kids and doing your best and be best? You can't be against it. Unless you are a snipey leftist hater with the resistance. And of course, you see Melania as a target for your vitriol. I'm not sure exactly what Be Best is about, and I don't really plan to spend the time to figure it out. It's sort of about anti-bullying, I think, and being your best, I think. I mean, I don't know. But I do know it's completely inoffensive, as the best first ladies are. But I want you to see some of the vitriol targeting Melania Trump by the tolerant progressive left. Just throw a few tweets up there. There's Jeffrey Guterman. He's got that blue check mark on Twitter, which means he's one of the fancy people. Even the First Lady of the United States is orange now. Be best. I guess that's funny. Here's Holly Figuera O'Reilly, another blue checkmark liberal. Be best sign. Look, I don't really lay into Trump's family. That's what you say right before you lay into Trump's family. Not even his adult kids, who are just complete assholes. Hey, by the way, she doesn't lay into Trump's family, guys, because she just said that, but they're complete assholes. And the 3 pillars of this initiative are great. Well-being, social media use, opioid abuse. But this slogan is awful. It doesn't mean anything, but they're assholes, and I don't lay into Trump's family, guys. These are the fancy people. Brooke Sherman, I just want you to know these are all the fans. Personally, I prefer the Zoolander version, Be Best. Derek Zoolander Center. Oh, here we go. Glenn Thrush. He's perfect. He was, as we saw revealed in the Podesta email leak, he was literally the guy who would have his columns vetted by the Hillary Clinton campaign before sending them to his own editors. He says, for non-English speakers, preferably those from Eastern Europe, is Be Best an idiom in your language? Oh, that Melania Trump, that accent she has in Be Best. We all like laughing at accents, but as many parents have taught their kids, if someone is speaking with an accent, that means they speak one more language than you do. And in Melania's case, it's 5 languages. And listen, Be Best is sort of goofy. Is it be your best, or is it be better? I don't know. I really don't care. Of course, in the Obama age, we had Michelle Obama holding up Twitter hashtags like free our girls, or whatever she tried to do to get the kidnapped hostages released from Nigeria. I guess my point is, the kind of abuse focused at Melania Trump for her accent or whatever, it is completely normal. And I ask you, if you think I'm too sensitive here, I don't really think I am. I'm just trying to prove a point that if the shoe were on the other foot, if anyone would dare criticize Michelle Obama, and God forbid, the Obama kids, oh, Lord, thunder and Jesus, there would have been hell to pay. But it was just sort of standard operating procedure with Melania, because it's different that way. I mean, it's different that way. You attack, in Canada, Rachel Notley or Kathleen Wynne, and you're a sexist pig. I saw in the debates last night, Doug Ford said that Kathleen Wynne, I think, said she has a nice smile. And this was an apoplectic point for the Ontario Liberals, including her spokesman, who said, I'm literally shaking. No, you're not. You're literally faking. So telling Kathleen Wynne she has a nice smile is a DEFCON 1 alert. But just full tilt, nonstop besmirching of the most apolitical first lady in a generation, yeah, that's normal, because she married Trump, so she's fair game. My favorite of those tweets was one saying, I normally lay off those asshole children. Just a reminder of what we're doing here. We are doing a super chat every day from 12 noon Eastern to 1 p.m. I just hop on the YouTube here. We go live. I read some comments on the right. have a few little news stories I run. It's pretty loosey-goosey, not a prepared script, just some videos and some websites I want to show you. If you want me to see your comment for sure, just put it in super chat mode, and it's so bright I see it even out of the corner of my eye on the screen. I'm going to read one or two. Randall Alexander, I was told that she was a mail-order bride, bought and paid for. Show me one Western woman who doesn't show off her $10,000 ring. I assume you're referring to Melania Trump, and obviously you have no idea who Melania Trump is. She was actually a supermodel. She was not a mail-order bride. Maybe I've missed an earlier comment for you, but that is really a stupid comment. Everyone sort of knew Melania Trump was from Slovenia, but came to the West and was a successful model. To call her a mail-order bride is just stupid. And again, I put the shoe on the other foot. If it was a Democrat or a liberal woman you were objectifying in that way, saying she was just something bought and sold, I think you would realize how sexist that comment is. But the rules are suspended when you're criticizing a Republican. Real Men Fish said, agree Rebel should make a separate channel for daily live streams. Well, we have hundreds of thousands of YouTube subscribers, so this seems like the natural place to have the live stream. If you want to get notifications, just click at the bottom there. You can click the little bell, which sends you a notice when we put new videos up or do live streams. But we are, as I said, we are putting this in beta test mode. Is this the right time of day? Is there a better time of day? Is there, do people like this? Is the super chat function worth doing? All right, I want to move on to my second story. Speaking of double standards, and this is a shocking one. Again, you wouldn't notice it if someone didn't remind you of it, but I want to show you the MET Gala. It's one of the fancy people things, and I just want to show you some pictures of celebrities who went to this fundraiser for an art gallery, and the theme of the fundraiser was appropriate, make fun of, interpret the iconography of the Catholic Church. Let's just put up some of the photos there. So there's Madonna, and I'm just going to read the tweet. And this is an official tweet from the Met, as you can see. Madonna takes an edgy approach to this year's Met Heavenly Bodies theme at Met Gala. Is that really that edgy? I mean, she's dressing up as, what, a female pope or something. I really can't see it. I don't really think that Madonna is edgy anymore. I think maybe she would have been edgy in the 80s. But I don't think she's edgy, and I don't think appropriating the imagery of Catholicism is edgy at all in 2018. Let me just say the obvious here. Do some shtick with a burqa. Dress as Mohammed's youngest bride, Aisha, when she was 6 years old when they were married and 9 years old when it was consummated. Oh my God, that would be edgy. Do some commentary on the place of women in Islam. Yeah, edgy, you bet. But having a little fun at the expense of the Catholic Church, that ain't edgy. Next, put some more photos up. J-Lo turning heads in her Met Gala look. Just put a few more up there. The Daily Show host Trevor Noah walks the Met Gala carpet with a big old cross there. He's a deeply religious man. Sarah Jessica Parker looking iconic and dressed to the Met Heavenly Bodies theme. One more. There we go. Complete with her own set of wings, Katy Perry gets comfortable on the Met Gala carpet. I think that's it. Oh, we got one more here. Yeah, this is my favorite, Rihanna. She's the Met Gala co-chair, has arrived on the red carpet dressed as a sexy pope, sexy cardinal, I'm not quite sure. I think that's the last photo we have there. Now, I got to tell you, I don't think most Catholics are deeply hurt by this or appalled simply because this has lost its ability to shock. I mean, I suppose it was shocking 30 years ago when the edgy photographer Andres Serrano took a crucifix, immersed it in a vial of his own urine, took a picture of it and called it Piss Christ. And that piece of art was not only bought by publicly funded museums, but it was the toast of the art circuit. Or the Museum of Modern Art, when they had an installation called the Dung Madonna that was literally a piece of art made of elephant excrement, thus the name, the Dung Madonna. So it's all being done, and it's also boring, and it's also safe pretending to be edgy. It's just like these same empty-headed celebs are on Oscar night. I remember during the Bush administration where they showed their bravery by talking so tough to George W. Bush. George W. Bush wasn't going to arrest them and imprison them. I mean, when was the last time you saw the fancy people, the lovies, as they're called in the UK, take on something actually powerful and dangerous, like actual censorship, like Iran? And it's not even dangerous to take on Iran. You're in Hollywood. You're in Manhattan. It ain't dangerous to be brave there. And that's my point. Mocking Christianity and Catholicism in particular is so old hat and boring. You know, some of those tweets from, oh, it's edgy. Sorry, Madonna ain't edgy. We all saw her video, Like a Prayer. What was that? Is it 30 years ago now? It ain't edgy anymore. You try that with Sikhism, Hinduism, Judaism, you'll wind yourself getting a human rights complaint. You try that with Islam, you'll get yourself a bomb threat. That's what'll happen. All right, you know what? You know that it's bad when even Piers Morgan takes a crack at it. Let me show you his column in the Daily Mail. He says, if the Met Gala was Islam or Jewish themed, all hell would break loose. So why was it okay for a bunch of flashing celebrities to disrespect my religion? But I must say, even Piers Morgan is having it both ways. I remember, and I don't know if it's possible to call this up quickly, I just thought of it, when Piers Morgan had our friend Tommy Robinson on his show Good Morning Britain. And to Piers Morgan's credit, he invited Tommy on and they debated about Islam. And it was, I'm not going to say it was unfair. I mean, Piers Morgan was badgering and whatnot, but I will give him full marks for actually inviting Tommy on and actually letting Tommy have a few words in edgewise. It was probably the fairest treatment that Tommy Robinson had at the hands of the mainstream media in years. Oh, and by the way, it was literally the highest audience ratings that Good Morning Britain had all year. But there was this moment, and I think our producer's trying to find the clip right now, when Tommy came to this debate with Piers Morgan holding a Quran in his hand, not to rip it or throw it or disrespect it, but just to hold it as a prop, maybe to look something up. I mean, Tommy, as you know, is a bit of an expert in the Quran. He's written an annotated Quran. And Piers Morgan was enjoying this debate with Tommy very much, but when Tommy held up the Quran, you could see Piers Morgan suddenly get extremely nervous. Can I just show you the clip? And can we zero in on the part of the clip where Tommy holds up the Quran and Piers Morgan suddenly panics that he's going to get a fatwa on himself? Take a look at this.
Because there are 100 verses in this...
Yes or no?
Okay.
Are you Islamophobic?
There's no such word as Islamophobia. Phobia is an irrational fear. It's not irrational to fear these things. Now, if I hold this book up and say, there will never be peace on this earth so long as we have this book, it's a violent and cursed book. That's
Can
I tell you who said that? Can I tell you who said that?
You put the
Sir William Gladstone
Right, you
said
wouldn't
that.
do that with...
Sir William
Would
Gladstone
you do that with the Bible? Show some respect.
Show some respect.
Show some respect.
Have you read this book?
For people...
Have you read this book?
There are over a billion people...
There are 100 verses in this book that incite violence and murder against us.
Show some damn respect for people's religious beliefs, right?
I should show some respect for a book that incites murder against me and
put it down.
And calls me an animal. No, I won't put it down. Sir William Gladstone held this book above his head in Parliament and he said there will never be peace on this earth so long as we have this book. It's a violent and cursed book. Was Sir William Gladstone, who we have statues across our capital C, was he a bigot or an Islamophobe?
See, now
Winston Churchill...
You're sounding like a complete lunatic.
No, I'm quoting some of the best leaders in this country.
No, you're sounding like a bigoted lunatic.
No, I'm not.
Somebody that basically...
Winston Churchill
you
said,
are an Islamophobe who hates Islam.
No, I don't
basically think...
Did you see that? Tommy wasn't doing anything rude with the Quran. He wasn't ripping it. He wasn't. I mean, he was using it as a reference point. He was referring to it. He said there were 100 verses in it he wanted to talk about. He said that book itself was held up by Gladstone and Churchill and criticized. And did you see Pierce? He was really enjoying this because he knew it was riveting TV. I think the entire interview went like 18 minutes. They blew out the commercials. They knew they had the hottest thing in the UK TV because everyone wanted to see this debate. But all of a sudden he said, put the book down, show some damn respect. Really? I think that Piers Morgan is afraid of Islam just as much as the Met is, but I will give him credit for having Tommy on the show. All right, I'm going to go to the comments. It's 12:19, which means our daily chit-chat here is 1/3 done. Just a reminder for those who are tuning in, we're trying this as a test run, seeing how people like it. Every day at 12 noon Eastern till 1 p.m. Eastern. And I know out west that's 10 a.m. in Alberta time to 11 a.m. And so that's not the most convenient for people who have to work. But we're just doing this live chit-chat. I mean, it's basically, instead of my second lunch, I just hop on the vids, chit-chat, we play some clips, I take some comments, and we're done in an hour. And I have my nightly show at 8 p.m. Eastern that's behind a paywall. This one's free. It's free, and as you can see, we got a ton of comments on the right. If you want me to see yours for sure, chip in a toonie or whatever, and it'll show up in colorful text. Let me just choose at random. Elkie Summer says, Pierce is afraid of Sadiq Khan and his goons. I don't think he's so much afraid of Sadiq Khan as he's afraid of a threat, a fatwa, an act of terrorism, which is common in the UK. And more than that, I think he's afraid of his own media bosses, because if you speak against Islam in the UK, you will find yourself deplatformed very quickly. Piers Morgan is a star today. He'll be fired tomorrow if he gets on the wrong side of that one. Jim Trawick says Piers was so terrified. He absolutely was. Piers reminds me of Almond Joy and Mounds. Sometimes you feel like a nut. I don't understand the reference. Maybe that's a UK joke. Here's Gene Fico, who says it's not about picking on Muslims, it's about exposing the hypocrisy. Well, you know, one thing I learned from Geert Wilders, the Dutch politician, and Tommy is excellent at this, and Katie Hopkins is excellent at this, and it's a very important distinction, and I've come to embrace this as well. Anyone in the world can criticize any ism, any ideology, any philosophy, any belief system, capitalism, communism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Scientology. We are allowed to criticize a body of beliefs. In fact, I think it's our duty as thinking people to do so. Criticizing an ideology, even hating an ideology, is fine. It's legitimate. I hate communism. I hate authoritarianism and Stalinism. Now, that is different from hating a Muslim who is a person, who is a member of a religion. And I've seen it for myself, the times I've been hanging out with Tommy Robinson in the UK, is he gets along famously with many Muslims. He has more Muslim friends in his cell phone than any liberal journalist I know. He makes a distinction between criticizing the ideology and criticizing people. Now, obviously, he'll criticize people if they follow the ideology in an extreme way. Oh, by the way, I see some super chats coming in. Ronnie Biggs says, CDC granted $3 million in 2014 for a South Central LA Democrat group, and a link there. Okay, well, I will have to click on that. CDC is, I'm not sure if you're referring to the Centers for Disease Control. There's a few things with that acronym. I'll have to click on that and look at it later. But thank you, Ronnie, for the $5. Appreciate it. And for the link. And do you see what I mean by the super chat now? You kick in $5 and that comment's going to stay up there now. And it's in bright green, so I couldn't miss it. And there's another comment by Tom Youngjohn, $20. I actually don't see Tom's comment, but I appreciate chipping in. And you know, by the way, this is one of the ways we pay the bills here at the Rebel, because we take zero money from the government. All right, I'm going to read another couple comments, and we do have some more stuff I want to show you, and we're going to tell you about an event we have coming up. Let me read Daniel Grant, who says, Hunky Monkey, I'm with you, man. Fulcrum News, Bud. David Seaman is a true hero. Ezra, you are too. I like you, man. Well, thanks, David. I'm not familiar with David Seaman, so I just have to take your word for it. Elkie Summers, again, I already read Elkie. Oh, Ronnie Biggs, Center for Disease Control. There's a lot going on in this comment stream. I can't even keep up. Hey, tell you what, I want to show you an event. If you're in the Ontario area, in Toronto, Canada, we're having a get-together on June 2nd, which is a Saturday. It's like a one-day version of CPAC, the great conservative convention in the States. And we had it last year. We had about 800 people show up, and it was great. The speakers were great. Like CPAC, you know, boom, boom, boom. Everyone's up there for 10, 15 minutes. It never gets draggy. We had a great lunch last time. And I can't believe how cheap the price is. It's insane. I'm not sure if we still have early bird pricing, but it's like $35 for students and seniors. Here, let's run the ad. I want to show you what we're up to on June 2nd.
We're going to discuss topics that the political elites and the media party don't want us to discuss. Political correctness be damned.
Passion isn't enough of a principle to guide the world by.
Perhaps we are in better touch with the pulse of the country.
We are in this fight with you, and you're all in this fight together.
If you see over the last few years, there's been this populist movement going around the world.
That's the status of the left at this point, is I don't know if you're The Onion or the New York Times.
Postmodernism is a sophisticated philosophy. Now, it's wrong, but it's deeply wrong.
We're simply people with another point of view. That's a partial lineup of our speakers that you saw at the end there. And those clips you were seeing were from our Rebel Live event last year. It was so much fun. And I tell you, we were friends with Jordan Peterson before he was an international superstar. It was fun to remember his speech. And Doug Ford, you saw him there too. Of course, he's the Ontario Conservative leader now who appears to be on track to be the next premier. I just heard in my earpiece that we will have early bird pricing until May 15th. So you have one more week to get those super cheap tickets. I really recommend it. It is so much fun. You come in at 8:30 in the morning. We give you a light breakfast. Boom, speeches all day. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I told you, Lindsay Shepherd. I think I mentioned yesterday, Lindsay Shepherd is coming. She's the teaching assistant, the graduate student from Laurier who was interrogated by her professors for being politically incorrect. So we got some great speakers. And early bird pricing, go to the rebellive.com. While that ad was playing, I was looking at some more of the comments. And I see there were some more Super Chat contributions. Thank you very much. A few questions came in. One is, what's up with Tommy Robinson? Tommy went independent, and it was an amicable separation. We still admire what he's doing. We follow what he's doing. I feel like we have some paternity in turning him into a journalist, activist, and he's doing great. And in fact, his Day for Freedom on the weekend was a very important event. I see some more Super Chats jumping in. Nelson Thal says, could you comment on the strong evidence that Justin Trudeau is the son of Fidel Castro? Yes, thank you. I would say the evidence is tantalizing but not persuasive. There is some sort of similarity in look between a young Castro and Justin Trudeau. But I just think that that is sort of wishful thinking and memeing by those who would ascribe Trudeau's pro-communist stance and pro-Castro stance to him being the actual paternal, as in if Fidel had slept with Margaret Trudeau. And again, Margaret Trudeau was famously promiscuous, and she and Pierre Trudeau had an open marriage. So again, I see where the conspiracy theory comes from, but I don't think it's accurate. I think the timing of their visits to Cuba doesn't add up. I'm not saying I would reject proof of it. I mean, it's still a possibility, but if someone were to say, is Fidel Castro Justin Trudeau's dad, I would say, I don't think so, but ideologically, he certainly is a father figure to Justin Trudeau. And you know that because when Fidel died, the eulogy published as a statement by Justin Trudeau was so over the top and so gross, it made international news, calling Castro a hero. Tom Youngjohn says, as a conservative, would you heal our oceans, as Dr. Peterson would like to try to do? And if so, what 2 steps would you take if you ran the zoo? All right. I like Dr. Peterson so much. He's one of the biggest thinkers, most open-minded people. He's prolific. He's challenging every sacred cow out there. I know he's interested in the oceans because I see some of his tweets on that stuff. And I just take it because he wants to tweet about things that aren't political all the time. In fact, he likes to tweet a Twitter feed called Human Progress because he wants to tell people it's not all bad news out there. I think that he's a very valuable person to listen to. I'm not familiar with his views on the environment in any depth, but I am a huge supporter of his belief in free speech, in his criticisms of the academy, his criticisms of Marxian philosophy, and I think he's such an important role model. He's inspired people like Lindsay Shepherd to stand up. I know of no other person in the public sphere who has inspired more people that I meet on a regular basis to break out of the groupthink. He almost has a religious effect on people, and he's not trying to do that. He's not trying to be a cult leader, but it's an awakening and a moral awakening in people. It truly is remarkable. I think he's a great force for good. Brian Taylor. Oh, I think I just missed Brian Taylor's comment. Oh, there it is. What do you think should be Tanya's next move? New party, run as an independent, something else? You're referring to Tanya Granick-Allen, and I spoke at length about her on the show last night. And just by the way, for folks who are watching on this live chat on YouTube, if you don't know, every night at 8 p.m., I have a full show that's more produced. I have a scripted monologue, a lot more video elements, and we do 2 interviews a day as well. It's about a 1-hour show. And I went on at length about Tanya Granick-Allen and why I thought it was so unfair and inappropriate for Doug Ford to heave her overboard. And I would say that my main argument is she said nothing that was revealed in the last few days that we didn't all know about her already. And so if Doug Ford was uncomfortable with her being strongly pro-life and traditional views of morality, he shouldn't have taken her support to become the leader. That said, I don't think it would be profitable for her to run as an independent. I don't think she would win as an independent candidate in Mississauga. I just don't think the riding dynamics are there. I think she was wronged, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think running as an independent is the solution. I think we have to be very careful that Doug Ford is not giving in to the poor advice of advisors around him who were taken by defeated candidates' teams like Caroline Mulroney. I fear that the decision to throw her out was made by advisors who are not truly part of Ford Nation. I want to read a little bit more. Mike Pop chipped in $10. Thanks very much, Mike. I don't see a question attached there. If you have one, let me know and I'll come back to it. Okay, let me just check the time. It's 12:31. I keep checking the clock because I'm only on from 12 noon to 1 p.m. and I try and do this every day. And like I say, this is just a test run. Seeing if people like it, seeing if people want to support it. I was talking about Twitter. I was talking about Jordan Peterson, one of my favorite guys. And he was at this event. We did the Rebel Live last year. He's in Phoenix this year, so I know he can't make it on that day. But just to show you the state of academia, I want to show you a statistic about Republicans and Democrats on campus. And this is shocking. But take a look. Put this graphic up here. This is a report, a study that shows, I'll just read it instead of paraphrasing it. Faculty political affiliations at 39% of the colleges in my sample. This was an academic survey. 39% of the colleges in my sample are Republican-free, having 0 Republicans. The political registration in most of the remaining 61%, with a few important exceptions, is slightly more than 0%, but nevertheless absurdly skewed against Republican affiliation and in favor of Democratic affiliation. Thus, 78.2% of the academic departments in my sample have either 0 Republicans or so few as to make no difference. And this was a survey, an academic survey. And of course, in the United States, unlike in Canada, people register as Republicans or Democrat. It's not a requirement to do so, but it's what you do when you want to vote in a primary, for example, and of course when you make a political donation that is publicly disclosed as well. So this was a very useful study. Imagine an entire faculty with not a single Republican, or an entire university. And as you saw there, 78% it was 0 or close to 0. I see another super chat. Thank you. Life is Good says, will the PCs in Alberta revoke Bill 24 if elected? I'm trying to remember Bill 24. Is that that's the GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance rule? And if I don't have the text of the bill in front of me, but I think that's the one that makes it illegal for schools to inform parents if their kids join a GSA. I think that's what you're getting at there. I don't want to guess when I don't have the statute in front of me. And my point is, we saw, and this was my monologue last night, 57% of United Conservative Party delegates voted to give parents the right just to know what your kid's doing. What kind of sex ed is coming down the pike? What kind of religious teaching is coming down the pike? Just consent, not even consent, just notice, just to know. And the NDP says, no, we can't trust parents. Who really has the good and the best interests of your students at heart? Teachers' unions. We must make it against the law to inform parents what kids are up to. That's just creepy to me. That's creepy. I see another super chat comment from Tom Young. John, as a conservative, what do you think about fishing-free zones in the oceans? And what do you think about measures to reduce garbage in the oceans? Okay, John, I respect your interest in the oceans. I was asked, maybe it was you who asked me about this the other day, and I said it's tough to apply property rights to an ocean because it's not naturally easily broken up, like barbed wire fences. I mean, the invention of barbed wire was a great aid in the settlement of the United States because it was much easier and cheaper and faster to delineate property than a traditional wooden fence or a stone fence. Barbed wire really helped settle the West, and because it gave property rights, you knew where the boundary was, and so you could enforce rights and you could stop people from plundering, which is, of course, what's called the tragedy of the commons. I think the problem with our oceans is the tragedy of the commons. And what that means is it's in everyone's individual interest to maximize what they haul out of the sea for themselves. And as you allude to, dump their garbage there because it's on someone else's beach. So I don't quite know the answers to that. I think it's probably got something to do with property rights, but I don't want to pretend that I've spent a lot of time studying that. So frankly, Tom, if you have a link you want to post that would suggest some solution, I'm open to it. I just don't want to go any deeper than that because it's not something I've given a lot of thought to. Maybe it's because I was born in a landlocked province like Alberta. All right, let's check the clock. It's 12:36. I've mentioned several times that I have a show at night, and tonight I am working on a show that's based in part on Neil MacDonald's insane story on the CBC today, and it's so insane. There's a member of Parliament, a New Democrat from Quebec, a feminist named Christine Moore. And she's the one who just made allegations about a New Democrat from the Prairie's named Ware. I think his first name's Aaron Ware. And got him booted out of caucus. So she's always making sexual harassment complaints, always talking about sexual harassment. This woman, I tell you, if you see this woman, fellas, just walk away. Don't walk away. Have no interactions with her. She says she's being sexually harassed by the Canadian Forces. I think she was the MP who made complaints against Massimo Passetti and Scott Andrews that got him kicked out for sexual misconduct, although the identity is not being confirmed. I've written to her office today asking if it was her. This one was bad news, but the breakthrough, crazy story by Neil MacDonald today suggests, let me just tell you this story. So this feminist, socialist NDP MP from Quebec, who's always accusing other people of sexual harassment, getting MPs suspended, calling our military a pit of sexual harassment. She saw some Canadian military vet who was blasted in Afghanistan, injured, is on meds, trauma. Saw him give an extremely emotional testimony before Parliament. And what did she do? Did she go over and say, I'm on your side? She gave him her card and said, hey, give me a call. And they met, and she started plying him with liquor, with gin. What? Is this a meeting or a date? Well, then she follows him back to his hotel room and spends the night. And this soldier talks to Neil MacDonald and says, I'm not going to pretend I was raped or anything. But there was a hell of a power imbalance. I'm just a grunt. She's this big MP. And there you go. She, you know, I mean, I don't think he minded. I don't think he was complaining. But all of a sudden, all of Christine Moore's accusations of sexual harassment, they're in a bit of a different light, aren't they? That this woman sees a vulnerable soldier, emotional testimony, he's in pain, he's got shrapnel in his body, he's on meds, post-traumatic stress, he's pouring his heart out. She goes in and makes a move on him and has sex with him. And by the way, she's posing for all the Parliamentary Hill feminist media with her baby. And she's sleeping around with people she opportunistically finds by virtue of her office. That's the craziest story on the CBC. And only Neil MacDonald would write it because he's independent-minded. I see there's some more super chats coming through. Let me just go back. Ken North Thunder, thanks very much for your $10. I appreciate that. Barry Lusk, $10. Hey guys, I appreciate you chipping in the $10. It's one of the ways we pay the bills here at the Rebel, because of course we don't get the $1.5 billion a year from the CBC, from the government that the CBC does. Barry and Ken, I want to let you know that if you want to have a comment, not just the dough, but if you write a comment, it's highlighted in bright colors too. Nelson Thal, $5, thanks very much, says, how committed do you believe Quebec will be to a King Charles, and will this create a constitution crisis? Well, no more and no less than any affection from Quebec to Queen Elizabeth. And you say King Charles, I assume you're talking about the Prince of Wales, or Prince William after him. Look, I don't think the actual person on the throne is going to make that big of a difference. I just don't think so. If you have some information you'd like to share on the other side, let me know. I think that I don't think that that's a real irritant in Quebec these days. I just don't see that as a top of mind issue. I think Quebec does have constitutional beefs with Canada. It has economic beefs. I think it's got a real grapple with Islam these days and what they call reasonable accommodation. So I just don't think that that's the same issue it might have been in another generation. Hey, it's 12:41, and we go from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time every day. I want to run another tiny little ad just so I can have a break and have a sip of water. Here's another ad.
صراحة صار الضرب الصبح الفجر فاحنا ما قدرنا نطلع يعني. هي مستقبل خازق كارثة. يعني قالوا تأسلمون يشترون الإسلام. لا. بشم بابو ألا أول رحم الله.
Still sipping on my drink. Don't blame me. I voted Conservative. That's one of our mugs that we sell at the Rebel online store. It's our most, I think that, and we have a shirt that says "I'm a Harper man," our most popular. Anyways, I took the moment while we were looking at commercial to look at some of the other comments, and I'll talk about some of them. Ed Sweet chipped in $5. Thanks for that, by the way. Did you see that ad, though? That's our first documentary that we made here at the Rebel. I went to Iraq with a team last July, and we have the documentary. We had the premiere in Toronto and another one in Calgary, and I don't know the exact day, but we expect to have DVDs and video on demand available soon. I'm proud of it. It's our first documentary. It's just under an hour. And it's called SaveTheChristians.com, which is sort of expresses itself, isn't it? When I was in Iraq, I saw so many analogies between the Islamic war against the Christian minority and the Holocaust. And just give me a second to outline some of them. Of course, the Jews under Nazi Germany had to wear a yellow Star of David, right? Well, when I was in northern Iraq, the Christian homes, ISIS would put a mark on them too. The Arabic letter Nun, or N as we would say, which stands for Nazarene. That's what they call Jesus. So they would mark the Christian homes, similar to how the Jews were marked. I was in this town called Tel Askaf and another town called Batnaya. And remember, the ISIS terrorists, they're in a war, right? They're in a war against the Kurds, against the Iraqi government, against the allies. But yet they took time out to desecrate the Christian cemeteries. Again, like the Nazis desecrated the Jewish cemeteries, it was so important. Oh, and the churches, of course. Kristallnacht. The Nazis torched the synagogues in Germany. ISIS torched the churches in Iraq, defaced them. I went to one church, every single cross was broken, and grotesque graffiti and every kind of defilement possible. There were so many analogies. I just see some more super chat coming in. Jason Pye contributes $10. Thanks very much for that, Jason. I didn't. And Ed Sweet, $5. Thanks very much. You guys, when you're doing the super chat, you can make a comment appended to your contribution, and I'll read those for sure. I saw some other comments while the ad was going. I can't find them very quickly here. There was some about someone saying they didn't want to go out and put in lawn signs in the rain for Doug Ford based on his treatment of Tanya Granick-Allen. Let me say what I said last night. Of course I want Doug Ford to win the premiership of Ontario. Of course I want the Liberals to be defeated. Kathleen Wynne is terrible. Of course I want Jason Kenney to win in Alberta. Rachel Notley is the worst thing that's happened to Alberta since the Great Depression. But that doesn't mean I will give Doug Ford and Jason Kenney a pass when they do unconservative things. And I think both decisions, the decision by Doug Ford to defenestrate Tanya Granick-Allen and the decision by Jason Kenney to ignore a vote by 57% of the party delegates about giving them notice of sex ed or religious ed, I think that's caving in not to their own conscience or judgment, but to the media party. I think Doug Ford was fine with Tanya Granick-Allen, or at least fine enough to accept her support a month ago. I think Jason Kenney agrees with parental rights, even though he's not a parent himself. I think he has enough empathy for those who are. I think both of these men made decisions based on their fear of the mainstream media. They're more afraid of being called bad names by the CBC and the media party than they are of their own members. And I think that's a deep mistake. It's one of the few mistakes that Stephen Harper made as Prime Minister. If I had to sum up the 9.5 years of Stephen Harper's leadership of Canada, I think it was outstanding in many ways. In foreign policy, it was outstanding. Financially, it was outstanding. We were the last into the recession, the first one out. It was not deep. No new major entitlement programs. But the two things I think Stephen Harper did poorly in his 10 years as PM. Number one, he did not tackle the courts. He made bad appointments, and you could blame that on his justice minister, but that's passing the buck. Stephen Harper did not have a court revolution as Donald Trump is doing, and we will live with that legacy for decades. And the second thing is he did not privatize the CBC when he had the chance. And he thought, did he think that he was buying their affection? Well, they put the knife in him in the election. They'll do that to Jason Kenney and Doug Ford too. It's 12:47. I'm just doing that because I want to keep an eye on the clock. I told you a little bit about the crazy story by Neil MacDonald. Can I read a little bit? I forgot that we had some quotes. You're probably thinking, what are you talking about? Well, it's a Me Too story, right? Because this Christine Moore is just going around Ottawa making these complaints about sexual harassment everywhere. But look at how she treated this soldier. So this is from the story, and credit to Neil MacDonald. So Kirkland is the name of this Army vet. I just got to read this to you. You got to hear this. Kirkland says when he arrived at Moore's office, so remember, he just gave a very emotional testimony, and then this young woman, socialist MP named Christine Moore, comes up and says, hey, here's my card. come over to my office. Oh, okay, it's a business meeting. You're an MP. We're going to talk about my testimony. Get this. Kirkland says when he arrived at Moore's office, she offered him gin and persisted even after he told her he was taking antidepressants and painkillers and was not supposed to be drinking. She's a nurse, he says, and I suppose if she's a nurse and says it's okay, it is. There were a few more drinks, and it became clear Moore's intentions went beyond a professional interest in his case. That night, he says, she followed him back to his hotel, where he says she spent the night. Look, I'm not crying rape, says Kirkland, who is now a realtor in Brandon. I don't like to think of myself as a survivor. I prefer thriver. But what she did was inappropriate. Was I a willing participant? I guess it depends on your definition of willing. There was a power imbalance. There was a level of authority there, unquote. I think that's exactly right. I mean, I don't think any vet, even one on meds and with shrapnel in his body, is going to say, oh, I was raped by this NDP woman. No. And I have no idea if he was single. Christine Moore has a baby. It's in all the photos in Parliament Hill. So I don't know if she's married, but imagine the creepy NDP member of Parliament, Christine Moore, who sees a vet who's giving emotional testimony and says, hey, I'm going to get him on the rebound. I'm going to invite him over, ply him with drinks, even though he protests he's on meds, and I am going to follow him back to his hotel. And that fact pattern is surprisingly similar to the fact pattern of two Liberal MPs who were sacked, Massimo Picchetti and Scott Andrews, after allegations from a Quebec NDP woman. And this latest NDP, Christine Moore, is the opposite, is the other side of the coin on the Me Too movement. She's a woman, not a man like a Harvey Weinstein or an Eric Steinerman, but I think it's worth remembering that there are these liberated feminists, and she's a leftist socialist MP, who has her sexual conquests, if that's the word, and then plays the rape card or the sexual harassment card if she didn't like how it ended the next day. I think she's outrageous, and she's responsible for the sacking of 3 members of Parliament. Literally 1% of Canada's Parliament has been sacked. Because, I mean, she's done more damage to our democracy than any foreign interest has. I think she should be sacked for this story in the CBC. All right, let me get back to comments because it's 12:51 and I want to keep my eye on the clock. I'm just going to read some. And if you want me to read yours, make it stand out, chip in a toonie, and it'll show up. Electro Pig von Folkengruven says, Ezra, I've talked to the leader of the Trillium Party of Ontario, and I find him intelligent, honest, and informed. Have you talked to him yet? Tell him I sent you. He'll remember me from Windsor. I have not. I've heard of the Trillium Party, but there is just no chance that it is going to win next month. Just zero chance. Could it be a spoiler in a few ridings and pull votes away from Doug Ford? Yeah. Is that a good thing? Probably not. I think our challenge as conservatives is to be as conservative as possible and win. It's easy to be as conservative as possible and lose. You can be super conservative. The balancing act is to be reasonable and moderate and put enough water in your wine that you can get a majority, but not to put any more than you need to. That's my worry about Doug Ford and Jason Kenney. I think they're both going to win. Now we got to keep them as conservative as possible. I think the Trillium Party is not a real option. Daniel Grant says, go for it, Ezra. I despise CBC and Global, all of them. I trust you. Well, thanks very much. I'll try and live up to your trust. Pastor Phil Biggs says, hey, Rancher, I agree with your comment. The population imbalance means the West does not ever have a say in Canada has governed. Well, you can see that with Trudeau in particular. He has no use for Alberta other than a source of tax money, like the goose that lays the golden egg. Unfortunately, like the fool in that fable, he killed the goose. He canceled the Northern Gateway Pipeline. He changed the rules to kill the Energy East Pipeline. He's killing the Trans Mountain Pipeline. He's driven away the $36 billion Pacific Northwest LNG. He's literally responsible for $100 billion in oil and gas infrastructure. And this is just on the construction side, fleeing Canada. So try paying all your fancy equalization to Quebec and your favorite parts of the country once you've killed the oil patch in Alberta. Good luck to you. I'm going to read some more comments. Dirt Doctor says, Ice Water, you need to educate yourself with facts. I don't know what that's about. Oh, I think there's a super chat. Here we go. El Chepacabra. Ezra, your thoughts on the marijuana legalization? Well, first of all, I don't think it's a priority. I think we have real priorities in this country, and I think they should take the attention and time of Parliament and the government. I just don't think marijuana is a top priority. I know it's Justin Trudeau's priority. In fact, for so long, it was the only subject that he truly opined on with depth and energy and enthusiasm, because it's the only one he actually knows about. If you ask Justin Trudeau about any other issue, even his so-called favorites like the environment, he just repeats a few stock phrases. Oh, the energy and the environment and the economy and the environment, they go together. You need both unity through strength, through diversity. Like, he just has some talking points, and it's so shallow, and he just repeats them ad nauseum like a message track, and he's never called on it. The only issue that Justin Trudeau will get excited about, get into the weeds on, speak with any personal knowledge is marijuana, because he is a drug user. And this is not my aspersion, this is his confession. And I'm not talking about when he was a kid. Andrew Scheer said when he was a young man he smoked marijuana, okay, whatever. Justin Trudeau said he's done that since becoming an MP. Oh, really? Well, who was your drug dealer? What money did you use? Where did you smoke? Were you in government property? Who did you smoke with? Are you not worried about blackmail by your drug dealer? Or does your drug dealer work for you? I mean, there's so many questions that a skeptical media would ask if any conservative prime minister admitted he was doing drugs as prime minister. But of course, it's the precious. It's the precious one, just like Hillary Clinton was the precious. So you couldn't ask about her health, for example, which was obviously a large campaign issue. You can't ask about Justin Trudeau and his obsession with marijuana. So in short, yeah, no, listen, I don't think that we should have a U.S.-style war on drugs where a quarter of the people in prison are there because they had a small amount of marijuana on them. I don't believe in that end of the spectrum, but neither do I believe that marijuana legalization, which is what Trudeau wants, I don't believe that's necessary. I don't think that's in the public interest. So I'm a bit conservative on that. But I'm not obsessed by the subject. In fact, I don't think I've ever done a story on it other than noting how the Liberal Party's insiders all got into the marijuana industry and are just as Trudeau's legalizing it, just like a generation ago, all the Liberal insiders got into the wind turbine industry, just as that was getting massive investments. It is 12:56 Eastern, which is 10:56 Mountain Time, which is 5:56 Greenwich Mean Time. We have some viewers out there too. Just a recap of what we're doing every weekday from noon till 1 Eastern Time. I just go live on what we call Super Chat here. It's Super Chat because I'm super chatty. It's not really highly produced. We just have some clips we show. We talk about the news of the day. I take as many of your comments as possible, including ones that are put in colorful highlights with a small contribution. We need that because it's how we pay our bills around here. I should tell you that I will not be here tomorrow. I have a funeral out of town I have to go to, so I am not able to do this tomorrow at noon. But I will be back on Thursday for it, so I hope you stay interested in it. I see I have 3 minutes left, so I am going to read some more comments. I see Steve Howard says $1.62 a litre for gas in BC. Trudeau seems proud of that. Well, more than that, that's the effect that all these carbon taxes are supposed to have. Whenever you hear leftists saying, oh, we have to price carbon pollution as if carbon dioxide is pollution, the whole theory there is that it makes you not want to consume something because it's so expensive. So $1.62, I've seen higher prices too. That's not a bug, that's a feature of the system. That is the whole point of it. The whole point of a carbon tax is to make using energy so painful that you walk instead, or you don't heat your house in the winter as much, you don't cool it in the summer as much, you don't drive as far in a big car, you live a smaller, darker, colder life. What do you think they meant by reduce, reuse, recycle? They're talking about you. For all of human history, we tried to leave the next generation with more prosperity, a home of their own, a backyard, freedom. That's been the goal. But the goal of the environmental extremists is to live smaller, to regress, to get rid of things in civilization that were once regarded as the ideal. Are you surprised by that? It's 12:58, just a couple more minutes. LD McQuinn says there's no place in Canada for recreational marijuana. Medical marijuana needs to be properly put through the medical system. It is a medicinal plant. All right, that sounds reasonable to me. El Chupacabra says Jordan Peterson needs to make his own political party in Canada. No, I totally disagree with you on that. The last thing you want to do is put Jordan Peterson in a party structure where he's got to deal with the BS of 100 candidates and rules and fundraising thing. I mean, he's great at fundraising, but I wouldn't want him to go through the street. No. Keep him out of the swamp. His job is to liberate our minds and change the culture. Politics is downstream from the culture. He is doing more to change Canada than any elected official in Canada. Now, hopefully, Doug Ford or Jason Kenney will make me eat my words on there, but no. Do not stop Jordan Peterson. He is changing the world. More than any Canadian, he's changing the world. John Reed says, I cannot see how to donate while I'm on my iPhone. Well, thank you, John Reed, for your offer. I don't know if it's possible. I think you might have to be at your laptop. John Zealand says the globalists want to kill off the weak peasants. Well, don't laugh. I mean, part of reduce, reuse, recycle is depopulation. Hey, I see it's the top of the hour. The hour goes by so quickly when I'm chit-chatty. I hope you enjoyed the show. I apologize I won't be here tomorrow. I have a funeral to go to. I'll be back on Thursday. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks to everyone who paid a few bucks to the Super Chat. It helps pay the bills. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed today. And tune in tonight at 8 p.m. If you need more info on that, go to therebel.media/shows. Every day I have a show at 8 p.m. Eastern. Until then, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, keep fighting for freedom.